G'day Whovians, it's Time Lord Miff here with you, and to get off to a flying start for 2019 we're going right back to the first Doctor, to the William Hartnell era, and today we're going to be looking at the War Machine. Now, the War Machines has a really interesting history because the idea for the story actually came from Kit Pedler. And if that name sounds familiar, that's because he is the co-creator, along with Gerry Davies, of the Cybermen. And he was actually applying for the job of the scientific advisor for the production team. And the production team interviewers asked a simple question, and they asked this of all the interviewees, and they said, how would the post office tower take over? And the post office tower, for those outside the UK, is a huge monument, not monument, but it was an installation that ran the telephone systems and so forth, and all communications and so forth like that. And Kit Pedler said, well, it'd be a rogue computer, and it would basically take over by using the telephone system. Well, the producers loved that idea, and he not only got the job, but he's one of the few people on the show to get a credit which says, from an idea by. Now, the original script was given to Pat Dunlop, and its original title was The Computers, and he found himself busy with other projects and couldn't finish actually delivering the script. So the job went to Ian Stuart Black, who actually wrote the previous season series, The Savages, which was the story that basically, from memory, I think that's where Stephen Taylor said goodbye. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little clip from the War Machines now, for those of you who haven't seen it, and maybe to freshen up the memories of those of you who...
There's something alien about that tower. I can sense it. Are you seriously telling me, sir, that you have invented a machine that can think?
Yes.
Suppose it decides it can do without people.
I wonder.
Machines cannot govern man.
There's a machine, a killer machine, and if we don't stop it, it'll kill half London.
There's a new and deadly danger facing us.
I resist all attempts to change me into somebody else.
Machines have been programmed to destroy any form of human life that opposes them.
Bloody, come on!
You have been spared. Now you must work hard for the success of this great new cause. The victory of the War Machines.
Now, when the Doctor lands with Dodo in modern day England, which of course back then was the 60s, he gets a strange feeling. There's some sort of energy or something unnerving coming from the post office tower. And this is where we find out that Wotan, a supercomputer, which stands for Will Operated Thought Analog Machine, has been constructed and is going to take over the running of operations. Well, Wotan actually takes over the minds of humans and gets them to construct the war machines of the said title. Now, despite the fact that there is meant to be a lot of these war machines that are gradually, you know, taking over and subduing parts of London, the production crew only actually made one. And how they made it appear that there were many of them, they just changed the numbers that were on the front. So it looked like there was, you know, number 9 was in this part, and number 1 was in this part, and so forth, which is, you can understand, for a show that's on a really tight budget, and this construction was quite big. It was very, very big, you know, bigger than the Daleks, and I mean that in size, not in popularity, okay? But this series is also interesting for a number of things that happen behind the scenes in terms of cast. Now, this was the last appearance of Dodo Chaplet, who was played by Jackie Lane. Now, her contract expired halfway through the making of The War Machines, which means she wasn't seen after episode 2. Now, when she was introduced, she had a Cockney accent, and that was how the producers envisioned her. And you can still see in some stories, such as The Ark, that she has a little bit of that, but word came down, and I'm not sure, because I haven't been able to find out for you Whovians, whether it was from the production team themselves or from the upper echelons of BBC, which said no, she must speak BBC English, which is that very, well, it's not so much posh, but it's a sort of way of enunciating, very clear and very distinct. So there was this little bit of confusion about how she sounded, and sometimes Jackie Lane would slip back into it, and with all due respect to her, that wasn't her fault, because, you know, as an actress she was you know, told that she was going to be a Cockney, and then she wasn't, and so she had to get her mindset all back and sort of wipe the board clean. And also the producers felt that she wasn't really a successful character, and so they decided to write her out. And interestingly enough, when Jackie Lane found out that she wasn't going to have her contract renewed and she was being written out of the series, she decided she would have nothing to do with Doctor Who at all, and she refused any sort of publicity engagements, any sort of conventions, anything like that, which is rather sad. And I don't know whether she changed her mind later on, but that was just something interesting. And another interesting thing too, Whovians, is that although, you know, Jackie Lane was told no Cockney accent, Michael Craze, who played Ben Jackson, was a Cockney sailor, and that was fine. Okay, so I don't know if that may be a bit sexist or for the times or whatever. But anyway, this series also introduced Annette Wilkes, who played Polly, and Ben as Ben Jackson the sailor, and their introduction comes quite early on in the story, where, you know, Dodo goes to a nightclub called the Inferno, where she meets Ben, and Polly is serving drinks and so forth, and they become involved very much in the plot, and it's at the end when they go to tell the Doctor that Dodo's decided to stay in London, which was a very unceremoniously way for the character to leave, you know, not even seeing her on screen. And as the Doctor says, well, thank you, bye-bye, and walks back into the TARDIS, they go to hand him Dodo's key, which the Doctor had dropped, and of course they're whisked off into their series of adventures. Now, for some time, the whole series didn't exist. There were sound recordings of some episodes and some parts, but luckily for us Whovians, the full story was found and pieced together, and it's obviously available on DVD. It's something we're all eternally grateful for. Even if you don't find The War Machines a particularly wonderful story, there are so few examples of the William Hartnell era that still exist. So we're lucky that we have dedicated animators and people who scour the world looking for missing episodes in the hope that we can build up the collection. Okay, Whovians, well there you go. There's some interesting facts and trivia for you from the War Machines, okay? I hope you found that interesting, and if you did like my video, hit that subscribe button and the bell notification, and you'll be really on top when you impress all your friends with your knowledge of Doctor Who. Okay, that's it from me, Time Lord Myth. I'll see you again somewhere in time and space. Bye.